After the 300-year waste wars, humanity succumbed to the All-Thing, and everyone was scarred with a number on their body. If it ever reached 0, the All-Thing dragged them into the abyss, just like Hina's mother was dragged in front of her own eyes. Her dying wish was for Hina to take the dark orb and find the legendary ace. After 5 years of traveling throughout the world, Licht appeared before her eyes, and the other girls ran away while calling him a creep. He introduced himself and he begged her for some of her chicken thighs, but she kicked him in the face and started running away. The man continued sprinting after her, wanting to feel a piece of those heavenly drumsticks, but got knocked into a tree so the real plot of the story can develop. The MILF apologizes for what Hina just endured and introduces herself as Nana. While giving her some food, Nana wondered why Hina traveled so far from her home country, and Hina reveals that she's been searching for a single person, wishing to find the reason her mother was taken away from her. Nana feels bad that no one's ever been there to teach her anything, so she goes on to reveal the rules of this world. Everyone is scarred with a number onto their body, and those with a lower number must obey the higher number holders. Additionally, their counts refer to something special. For Nana, the number 77 on her massive cannons represents the number of times a customer said her food was delicious. However, it goes down each time a customer calls her food disgusting, and once it reaches 0, the All-Thing sucks them to the abyss. After learning the rules, Hina realizes that her number refers to the number of miles she's walked. After all, she's traveled 441,000 miles. Licht begs her to explain it all again because he wanted to study that number deeply. But after he finished saying those words, a strange man appeared with a white star on his face, proclaiming to be the legendary ace. After she heard those words, Hina broke into tears and went along with the strange man. Inside his office, Hina struggled to reveal that she's been looking for him, but the man wanted to see her body count, saying he can add another one to it. Hina didn't like his cringy pun, so she tried changing the subject by showing him the mysterious orb her mother gave to her. Once all the soldiers laid eyes on it, the ace instantly slashed the couch she was sitting on, commanding her to hand over the legendary ballot. She tried refusing and showed him her number, claiming that people with lower numbers must obey those with the higher numbers. Hearing her words, he knocked her outside of the room and told her that he will use his military status to force her into a star stake, a duel where they bet their body counts, and defeated her, stealing her body count away. The man reveals that he'd been pretending to be an ace this entire time, and commands her to hand over her ballot before the All-Thing sucks her into the ground. But Licht appears to save her, saying he will take her place in this duel. The military leader thinks this match will be a joke after seeing his negative count, and slashes towards him with a flurry of attacks, knocking him backwards. He continues striking down towards him, but the men notice that something is off. It's impossible for a person to have a negative star count without being sent to the abyss, so they realize that he must be holding one of the legendary ballots. In an instant, he vanishes away from the sword, and promises to bring back Hina's 5 years of searching for her mother by restoring her count. While unsheathing his sword, it became clear that he was hiding the white star in his sword, and that he was the legendary ace she's been looking for. All of the enemies rush towards Licht with their sword, but before they could reach him, he disappears, and the ground quakes beneath them. He rushes with such speed that he appears invisible to the eye, and he destroys the entire field before delivering a devastating kick towards his opponent. His footsteps generate enough wind to send the man crashing into the wall, and Licht continues violating him until he forces him to give Hina her number back. His opponent tries to regain his footing and sends a barrage of sword strikes towards Licht, but not a single one of them lands, saying that he's too slow. With vanishing speed, Licht flashes towards his opponent and strikes him midair. Nana reveals to an old man that the only reason that Licht has earned a negative number over the years is due to the number of times he's been rejected. He leaps towards the sky, and Hina opens her eyes, thinking it's amazing that there's a person who can fly in this country. She believes he's truly the ace she's been looking for, and asks him if he's still hungry, saying that she will buy dinner for him. However, Licht says that she doesn't need to worry about repaying him for getting her count back, but she tells him that she doesn't care about any of that, and just wants him to stay safe, promising that she'll buy him food when they get back. Licht promises that he'll protect her and come back to have a meal with her, rushing towards the ground like a falling star. After winning the duel, the All-Thing surrounds him to take his number away, and grabs Hina by the legs, forcing them open so it can increase her body count. Licht asks her if she's alright, but she was glad to see that he was safe, crying because she was finally able to find the man her mother was talking about. Licht notices the soldiers watching him and changes his expression, stealing the orb away from her. His personality twists, and he tells her that he can finally afford a Ferrari with this money, so he doesn't need some ugly chick anymore. His body count is 5,700, so she should have seen it coming that he's a playboy. But rather than leaving her empty-handed, he says that he'll give her something in return, throwing her an old toy as a memorabilia. Hina wonders why her mom would ever tell her to find the ace if he was going to treat her this way, but Licht reveals that there are many aces, and he just wasn't the one she was looking for. With the sun setting, Hina heads back to town, and Nana wonders what happened to her and Licht, but she breaks down crying. He had taken the only thing Hina's mother left for her, and wonders what she should do from now on. Nana looks at the toy, and feels something off about its weight, telling Hina to hold on to this toy just for a little longer. The toy begins moving around and explodes, revealing the ballot inside. Owning a ballot is the worst offense in this country, Nana explains, so she's sure Licht was just trying to protect her. He had packed up and was ready to leave town, but Hina sprinted to try and catch up to him. His only way of protecting her was to pretend to steal the ballot and escape the nation, so when she finally saw him on the carriage, she screamed and begged for him to wait, but Licht told the driver to continue moving. Hina begs him to stop, because she's been looking for him her entire life. There wasn't anyone else in this cold world after her mother left, and she traveled years feeling lonely, especially when she saw how other kids shared every night with their parents. She was afraid that she would be this lonely forever, but when she finally met him and Nana, it was the first time in her life that she felt happiness again. All the moments of her laughing, she wants to share them with him, and calls him a liar for breaking his promise. She screamed the words "I hate you," and his number went to -1,000. After the sun finally set, a soldier appeared and saw she was hanging onto the ballot after all this time, but promised that he would keep her secret safe. In fact, he was here to thank her, because now he has finally located the ace, the most wanted inhuman being in this entire nation. The next day, a girl called Lynn discovers the news of the wanted Licht, but wants to hang out flyers to the rest of the village. She tries taking care of the village however she could, and based on the number of times she's helped others, her count rises. But there's two more special things that go rise up: her mini skirt and my oversized
out of pocket for that shit. Way out of pocket.
Keel wonders why she's helping others if her number only increases when they need serious help, so he tells her to go back to doing something productive like finding the wanted criminal. As she continues walking around, she thinks it would be impossible finding someone with a dumb mask like that, but she lays her eyes on the pudding man and immediately tries taking his mask off. The pudding man says that this mask is completely different from Licht's because he made sure to change it since yesterday. Lynn realizes he's right and apologizes, but before she walks away,
"Wait a minute! Who are you?"
Pudding Man tells her that he's just wearing a mask because of how ugly he is, and shows her that he has been dumped by 1,000 girls. His only wish in life is to go on a single date before he passes away, so Peel begs her to help this man because it might actually increase her count for once. She tries offering her hand to Pudding Boy, and her count instantly increases. They spend the day drinking together, and eventually they make it onto a dangerous bridge. But Peel encourages them to just cross it already. Carefully, they take each step, but the bridge begins shaking, and Licht realizes this is the opportunity of a lifetime, so he clutches for some plot development. He notices that Peel is the best wingman in this entire world, and Licht sticks his long eggplant between the two melons. But the log underneath Lynn breaks, and Licht barely clutches to save her. She looks into his face and realizes she's finally met the demon slayer blacksmith of her dreams. After all that, Lynn wonders if she's done with this date, but Pudding Man begins crying because he doesn't want it to be his last date, so Peel encourages her to give him the best thing in this world, the lap pillow. Her count instantly goes up once more, but Peel hasn't had enough. He's the best Giga Chad wingman, so he tells Licht to begin groping her thighs, and her rank begins shooting up faster than Peel climaxing. After she experienced the greatest climax in her life, Peel thinks that she really is a bother, because the guy in front of her is the wanted criminal they've been looking for. She's glanced over the fact that he has a negative count, and realizes he must be a ballot holder, just like the person on the wanted poster. She uncovers his identity, but Licht manages to take her sword away, saying that he can give her a different kind of sword to penetrate her round shields. but Lin uses the power of anime thighs to nearly blow him out of existence. After countless kicks, however, Peel reveals that she's been giving him the best view. So every time she tries to launch a kick now, she realizes that her plot armor gives her a defense of -100, but is shocked to notice that he hasn't been scratched once by her kicks. However, Licht reveals that she's already inflicted fatal damage, because from the moment he met her, his heart was torn. That's a Giga Chad pickup line. Lin says that she can't live with a criminal, but wishes to have at least 3 kids and live a long life with him as a good father. After hearing about kids, however, Licht decided to go buy some milk, and left some pudding for Peel for being the greatest wingman. He tells her that she ended up exposing her plot for no reason, and Lin screams in agony. Meanwhile, Hina serves customers at Nana's store, but a lieutenant appears at one of her tables and asks her about Licht's location. She tells him that she ain't no snitch, so he restrains her and asks her one more time to reveal the truth. The lieutenant gets up, telling his soldiers to head west, and destroys her entire shop. After the debris began settling, Hina wondered how he was so powerful, and Nana revealed that this is the power of the ballot, and the lieutenant must be holding on to one of them. Back at Lin's village, Lin regrets not being able to catch Licht, and realizes that she'll never be able to get rid of her short skirt, so a man offers to help her. They continue running past a grocery store, and the girl runs faster than all of them to try selling her radish, but notices that Lin must be having an argument with her boyfriend. Everyone in town hears the words that she has a boyfriend and runs after her, but when she tries denying that accusation, Licht wonders why she would show him her plot if they weren't dating. With all the distraction, Licht manages to escape above her. On the other side of town, Hina begs Nana to help her find Licht before the officers do, but Nana tells her that they can't travel until they repair the carriage. Licht notices something is off about this town, because even with a wanted criminal running around, he notices how awfully peaceful the town is. Everyone circles around Lin for help, and even a mother begs Lin to name her daughter for her, but the father hopes she won't be wearing mini skirts like Lin when she grows up. The baker comes screaming, showing her that a kid was trying to steal once again. But Lin tries to protect him, saying she will force him to do volunteer work, and begs the man to reconsider. She promises the child that she can try to take care of him if he's hungry next time, and he begins crying. All the old people want massages from her, but she accidentally steps on a doll while walking back and tries repairing it. Peel suggests that she looks for Mr. Pudding before he gets away, but Lin says that she can't ignore what's important to people, and Licht finally realizes the source of peace in this village, so he jumps down and offers to repair the doll for the girl, handing it back to her fixed.
Pudding?
While they continue chasing after him, Licht noticed something was off, and tried to protect Lin from the spikes piercing from the ground. The commander appeared and stepped on the girl's toy, but even though Peel rushed to greet him, Lin was too worried about Licht's health. The soldiers surrounded her in a circle, and Lieutenant Jail told Licht to stop playing dead before he pierces him again. With his cover blown, he takes off his pudding outfit, and Lin climaxes after seeing how handsome he was. They begin slashing towards him, but even though he evades all the attacks, he tries saving Lin from getting caught in the crossfire, and blows all the soldiers away with his sword. Jail says he will handle him, but Licht prefers not to be manhandled. Lin tries stepping in the way, but Jail commands her to recite the mission bestowed upon them, so she uses this opportunity to teach us about the rules of the show. Ballots contain mysterious abilities that activate when a person holds on to them, and the military is the only ones legally allowed to carry them. Even so, Licht thinks this should be an easy fight. After all, a person with a count of 5,700 is much stronger than a person with a count of 900, so he encourages Jail to run away. However, Jail casts his abilities, and iron spikes pierce the ground to try and end Licht. He attempts to evade his attacks as he runs up the wall, but his spikes pierce his path. With no other options left, Licht vanishes away and begins moving at blinding speeds around Jail, so Licht uses this opportunity to escape by jumping. But Jail jumps faster than him and crushes him down with an iron pillar. Licht finds it odd that he's this powerful, but realizes that Jail must be hiding a higher number. Jail reveals that this is his conviction, to punish evil with his own hands. Pillars of steel begin to surround them, and he goes on to reveal his real number, 12,500. Licht realizes he might be in a lot of trouble, and Jail prepares to cast his iron fist once more. But Licht barely manages to parry it off his body. Lin wants to try and save him, but her plot was too big to fit in that gap. As Licht continued trying to hold off the giant fist, a smaller one flanked him from the side to crush his core. But he quickly regained footing and began moving faster than before. However, even with his new speed, he was too slow for Jail, and he used his ability to knock Licht's sword into the sky. Without a weapon, Jails prepares to spar with his hand-to-hand combat technique, but notices that Licht got in the same stance as him. Jail found an opening opportunity and threw him off balance after kicking him to the side. The sword finally fell into his grasp, but he decided to throw it back to Licht, saying that he's too slow already. Licht said his mom is slow. After being insulted, Licht decided to go all out and leaped into the sky to prepare his ultimate blow. However, Jail wasn't afraid and cast his iron fist at the sky since he's no longer able to dodge. Before Licht is about to land, Jail launches a devastating blow to crush his confidence and restrains him with his iron. Licht begs 12 to let him go, but Jail promises he won't, not until he snitches on all his homies. So Licht says that Lin's plot armor was white, and the entire village agrees. Jail thinks everything's a mystery about this man, but wonders how he's a part of the military. After sparring against him, he noticed his martial arts were the special techniques taught only to the supreme soldiers. The military had spent countless resources on his capture, but Jail thinks he's pathetic with a mere 5,700 count. Licht refuses to snitch on the homies, saying he's not an op, so Jail summons a whip to squeeze the information out of him like 6ix9ine. As he casted his whip, however, Lin shielded Licht from the blow, and said that he's not as bad as he may seem. He's been helping her all along, but Jail says he's heard about her attempts to build a park for the kids, and thinks her efforts are worthless. Just because the town is peaceful doesn't mean she can neglect her duties, and calls her useless. Lin tears up, saying that her superior is right and will apologize, but Licht tells her not to apologize. He tells Jail that he hasn't cut his iron because he didn't want to damage Lin's town, and after destroying the cuffs, Jail realizes that Licht must have been hiding his true count this entire time. He prepares to unleash his true power and rushes forward with his fist. The energy emanating from their clash destroys the entire earth beneath them, and Licht yells that Lin isn't being lazy because the town is peaceful. It's the opposite. The town is peaceful only because she isn't lazy, so he commands Jail to apologize to her. The cliff begins falling apart, and Lin falls down amidst the chaos. Jail rushes with all his speed towards her, but Licht flashes forward 10 times faster and manages to clutch onto Lin. He tells her that she's fat as and begs her to go on keto, but she says she hates him, and his count decreases once more. Jail manages to catch up to them, and Licht throws Lin towards him so he can save her. This was his opportunity for retaliation, but he decides to just leap back up towards the village and bring Lin to safety. He tells her to get the fuck off him because she's a fat ass bitch. He sees the flyer that Lin's been working on, and understands Licht's words now, so with his powers, he creates a playground from his steel. He tells Lin that those foundations will only last while he's around, so he's going to give her 3 days to plaster the foundations before they head after Licht together. His number goes down after betraying one of his convictions, but he wonders what that man's true strength is. The girl comes to hand him her toy for fixing, so he creates a screwdriver and spends the rest of the day trying to help her out. A week later, Licht began running out of food, but Hina finally found him. Using all 3 of his brain cells, he began chirping like a crow, but Hina grabbed him and said the only reason he's wearing that beak is to overcompensate for his persuasion. She told him to stop already, and took off his mask, saying she would never mistake him for anyone else. Nana calls them over so they can enjoy food, and they begin talking about God knows what. I don't know why it's so hard writing something about this. Diggity. Hina is distracted by Licht's sword, but Licht thinks he's finally ready to drink some milk. Nana punches him away, saying he needs to work if he wants to get some money, so he should gather some firewood with Hina. They began gathering the firewood together, but Hina called him a liar for breaking his promise to her. However, she shows him the lunch she's packed for him so they could keep their promise. Licht tries apologizing for his actions, but she thinks this is sort of like a date. He might have been looking for different cherries to pop while she wasn't around. But Hina doesn't care because she's at least gotten to see him. As she finished her sentence, a plane came flying from above, and a red-haired girl tried her hardest to make it fly. Licht noticed she was headed directly to a ravine, Just when she thought she was finally flying, the plane nosedived straight down, so Licht jumped off the cliff to grab her and leapt off the plane just before they crashed. When Hina ran to see if they were okay, the red-haired girl jumped on top of him and wondered if he could fly. She investigated his second beak, but he told her that if she can't ride a plane, she could ride him instead. Licht climaxes, and she sees that the post-nut clarity has sent him into a different dimension, so she picks him up and begins dragging him away. Hina tells her to wait, so the girl introduces herself as Pelmo, saying she feels like she can achieve her dreams with them. Inside her hut, she shows them her 9th prototype, saying that this will be her best attempt yet. Throughout her life, her only dream was to fly in the air, and thinks it will improve everyone's lives when people gain the ability to fly. She wishes it would just work once, so Licht heads over to look at her blueprints, and spots the mistakes she's been making. Research into flight is forbidden in this nation, and the penalty is death. Still, Pelmo thinks that some dreams are worth dying for, because without dreams, living on would be pointless. Licht thinks she might be right, so he decides to take the ink pen and fix her blueprints. She sees the shape and thinks it would finally solve all of her mistakes, so she kicks them out. And while they waited, Licht wondered if he truly did the right thing. Hina thinks that he definitely did the right thing, but she blushes away, and Licht feels the bone of his sword hardening. She wonders what his dream might be, asking him why he's been traveling all this time. It's a secret, he tells her, and begins rolling around before grabbing onto her hand, saying he will reveal his goal to her. He wants to use his beak to penetrate the deepest part of her defenses. Who the f*** raised this guy? Hina climaxes, but Pelmo tells them it's complete and wonders if she just interrupted them. The plane was finally ready, and promises that she'll be able to fly it this time. In the distance, Licht spots an army advancing towards her, and Pelmo realizes that she's finally been uncovered. Licht draws his sword and prepares to face off against the army, but in the last second, he slashes her plane down to destroy it. Pelmo thinks she understands, and the soldiers come to inform her that they've heard of flight testing. However, she shows them the debris, claiming she was just trying to fix her old windmill. After the soldiers left, Pelmo knew she'd be executed even if her plane worked, because the witnesses would hunt her down for the rest of her life. Licht thought this would be the safest option because she can always try again, and Hina said she would stay by her side until she finally made it. But as nice as those words were, Pelmo revealed that she would never be able to try again, and her count dropped to 0. Her count was based on how many times she achieved her dreams, and since it started at 10, she has failed every single attempt. Until this last one. She tells them not to worry, and Hina begs someone to help her, remembering the day when her mother was sucked away. Hina tried running to save Pelmo, but the hands knocked her away. They continued rushing forward towards Licht, and although he managed to parry them off, a mysterious electricity shocked his body, and memories began flooding into his brain. Hina begged for someone to help her, but she told them not to cry. Getting sent to the abyss isn't guaranteed death, so she's sure that she's going to a different world instead. And in that world, she promises that she will make sure her dream comes true, and feels like she'll be able to meet them once more. She bids them farewell, and the all thing disappears. Hina collapses, but promises that she will meet her again one day. Licht collapsed next to her, and she looked into his eye, seeing a count of 001 engraved inside. The following morning, Licht sees Hina hanging onto him, and remembers feeling powerless to save Pelmo before she was sucked away. All he's ever been able to accomplish was clean up after someone else's dream. Hina eventually woke up and saw that Licht had disappeared. But after looking around the tent, she found him washing his face. Inside the town, the yearly festival was being held, but Licht was the only one with a gloomy expression on his face. She tells him to cheer up already, so he tells her he's cheerful and begins trying to develop plot in the middle of town. Lynn screams that she's finally found him and wishes to thank him, so she seduces him by locking him up, saying she's ready for some kinky role play. Hina wonders who this girl is, and Lynn goes on to introduce herself, saying they dated back in her town. Hina introduces herself back and says they've been traveling together while he looks up at her skirt. Licht knows he's about to deal with one massive headache, so he begins bolting away. But MILF Milkers comes to destroy every last bit of his hopes. She laughs it off, thinking this dynamic looks like the start of an H anime, but she's developed a contest to solve all their issues. They will be having a Gordon Ramsay-style cook-off, and they've tied down their hostage so they can feed him any type of food they can think of. Both of them get into their attire, and Lynn scours the town for fresh vegetables. The merchant thinks it's admirable how much of a cute wife she is, and begins sweet-talking her to buy more of his products because he's a real hustler. At the same time, Hina gathers wild mushrooms, and a giant bear begins rushing towards her, but it had fallen for her trap, and the poor bear realizes it's over for him. Lin is already on to preparing the stew, and Nana begins having her own fanfic of how their life will go.
おかえりなさいあなた。ご飯にする？お風呂にする？それともあたし？
Not gonna lie, that shit made me hard. I'm not gonna lie, I just got it, bro. I'm not gonna lie.
Tina comes back with the bear and boar's body. She dissects the body in front of everyone, and the entire town is shocked by her abilities. What the fuck is this bitch doing? Lin's meal is ready, and she presents it to her husband.
別にあんたのために作ったんじゃないんだから。
Why the f you lying? Why you always lying?
Lick tastes the food.
Fucking hell.
He tells her it tasted worse than his last salty biscuit game, but the only thing she wants is for him to salty biscuit her face. The men are impressed that his compliments worked, but Hina isn't out of the running yet, and she presents him with her dinner. He thinks this looks straight out of Jeffrey Dahmer's basement, so he takes a bite. It's disgusting, he says, but Peel wants to take a taste and thinks it's the best texture he's ever felt in his life. She's glad that her food was finally able to put a smile on his face, and he thanks her for preparing such a delicious meal. However, the contest isn't over, and Nana goes on to make him pick the winner. He stares at both of them and realizes that neither of them have tasted his meat yet, but Jail comes to interrupt the festivities. He wonders why Lin is dressing like a useless maid instead of arresting him, but Lick shows him that he's already been restrained, but will be making his leave now. Jail prepares to fight against him, and his spikes destroy the entire city's flooring. Lick draws his unreasonably long sword because he's overcompensating for something. He rushes towards Jail and evades every single one of the spikes rushing towards him. Jail smashes his fist into the ground and wonders why Licht was holding back his real power during their last duel. He pushes him backwards and rushes towards Licht, but destroys the fountain behind him instead. As he launched an uppercut straight towards Licht, he stopped himself in the last instant since Licht hadn't been evading. Nana yells at them to stop since Athiev destroyed the entire city and tells them to clean up their mess. Both of them put their weapons away. After they fixed the flooring, Jail and Licht enjoyed dinner together. On his way to find Licht, Jail had stumbled upon a town that had been ravaged, and all of the villagers had already been annihilated. Peel located a giant void where a lake used to be, and a survivor struggles to walk towards them. He tells them that on a peaceful day in the village, their lake was replaced with a giant hole, and from the depths of it, a giant green demon with 6 wings started flying and began raining bullets of fire towards them. Jail thinks it's more likely that it was a ballot holder responsible for the damage, and wonders what type of ballot holder would be able to fly, but realizes that he knows a single man who could be capable of flight. Back in the present, Lick tries handing Jail a drink, but Jail tells him that he doesn't have time for games. His iron activates once more, and he points a spear directly into Lick's eyes, informing him of the town that was destroyed. The one responsible was a demon of the abyss, and Jail knows that Lick can't fly, but he knows that he must have valuable information. Nana suggests they try to drink some apple cider vinegar so they can have a conversation at ease, which gives Jail a genius idea. He places all of his life savings on the table and orders every bit of PG grape juice she has. Licht calls him a perv for trying to make him drink it, but Jail is more shocked with Lin's outfit. Their bottle downing game begins, and Jail tries prying information out of him, but Licht tells him to drink faster, so they decide to down the bottles first. Their anger grows faster than a Karen asking to see the manager, and the girls wonder if this was truly the best approach. However, Nana is enjoying all this business and thinks she might just give them a special service for all their money. She stuck the long bottle down her throat and drank all the liquid. Meanwhile, the grape juice starts messing with Lin's thoughts, and she realizes that she won't be the best girl of this show, but was at least glad to have experienced all those moments with Licht. Still, she has pent-up desires building up inside of her, so she swears that she won't lose against Hina. At the same time, the two men begin sticking their bottles down each other's mouths and drinking all the liquid until they pass out from how sus their actions were. The girls only care about one of them, and they fight over whose lap he's going to rest in. The only thing Nana cares about is her business, so she pours some bottled up piss into his mouth. But after he pushed her off, the ground began quaking, and Peel revealed that a giant hole appeared in this town as well. When Jail arrived at the scene, the survivor screamed that everyone was about to be annihilated, so Jail rushed to make everyone evacuate. Licht realizes he's heard this noise before, and tells Jail to force everyone to retreat. Jail realizes that Licht must know something after all, and the demon begins appearing from the abyss. Licht stares with tearful eyes, wondering how those things were still able to fly after the Waste Wars. The giant helicopter takes aim and begins firing down, but Jail attempts to defend the villagers from its blows before it appears to evacuate. However, it begins flanking them from the back and fires a missile towards Jail. In the last possible moment, he had put up a barrier to defend them, and Licht commands everyone to evacuate immediately. But Jail says that he has no right to take command. However, Licht reveals his military ranking, and says he will be taking command as a colonel. The helicopter swerves back once more and begins firing towards Licht, but he evades every one of the attacks as he rushes towards the helicopter. It launches a missile towards the ground, but Licht goes on to slash it down and rushes towards the sky. He bounces off the pillar to try launching higher, but the All-Thing arms begin to surround him and knock him toward the ground. They attempt to reach towards the helicopter, but with the height limit, the helicopter flies above all of them as it continues firing towards the ground. Licht attempts to jump off the pillars once more, but the All-Thing prevents him from getting closer. He attacks one of them, however, the same mysterious electricity shocks his body. Hina begs them to assist Licht, but Jail reveals that it would be impossible because the military would be executed if they were to attack the All-Thing. As Licht continued enduring the pain to slash against the abyss arms, it knocked him into the ground. Hina begged someone to help him because all he's trying to do is save others, so Jail takes off his glasses and asks Lin where he might have put them. She tells him that she has no idea what he's talking about, and he goes on to say that he can't see a thing without his glasses, and casts a pillar straight towards the arms. He casts 3 more iron pillars towards the All-Thing, saying he doesn't know if he's breaking the law since he can't see a thing. Lin says her eyesight suddenly got worse too, and launches an attack towards the All-Thing, inspiring the rest of the army to take her lead. Licht sees the opportunity they've created for him, so he rushes forward to slash at the helicopter. But what his eyes see shock every bone of his body. A rain of bullets comes from above, sending the helicopter crashing into the abyss, and a white female appears from above, vanishing to point a gun at the back of his head. Licht recognizes her as Sona, and one of them fires directly at Jail's abdomen, leaving him to fall lifelessly towards the ground. The girl introduces herself as the Ace of Pursuit, and begs everyone to forget about everything, but thinks that she doesn't trust anyone after all, so she begins firing to end every person in this town. Licht leaps towards her, but Sona grabs him from the back, saying she's missed him after all these years. He begs her to stop because what she's doing is wrong, and she tells him that she will always obey his order from the past, the order to end everyone in his way. She tells him to watch because she's finally built the courage to pull the trigger, and pushes him down, firing at the people. Licht screams at her to stop and attempts to evade her bullets, but notices how they weave around his sword to strike him down. This is her special ability, the power for her bullets to continue following the target no matter how many times he may try evading. The bullets strike towards the ground, crushing his spine. Hina rushes to try and save him, but the soldiers restrain her and pin Nana down. All of his friends have been subdued, and Sona wonders what he's going to do about his friends, saying that if he wants to save them, all he has to do is go back to the Rahito senpai he used to be. One of the commanders point their weapon at a child, and she begs him to go back to his old ways if he wants to save the child. She wonders what color flower he would create if the kid was shot, wondering how bright and pretty it might look. His only solution is to go back to his old ways, and she wonders if it's becoming harder and harder for him to hold back. But Licht tries to comfort the child, saying he will save him. He promises that he will definitely save him as all of his friends watch, but the kid begins crying for his mother. Sona tells him not to make promises that he can't keep, and commands the soldier to do it before flying away. The trigger is pulled, but when Sona looks back, none of the soldiers remain standing. The ones guarding his friends vanish without a trace, and Licht says that he told her to stop, and promises to end her just as she had wished. Nana begs him to stop, but he tells her to be quiet. The soldier warns him that he will fire at Hina, so Licht goes on to remind Hina about the time she asked him about his goal, and remembers when Jail asked him who he truly was, so he goes on to finally reveal it. He walks past Hina, obliterating the soldier pinning her down, saying that his goal is to take everything from this nation. Sona was excited to see the mask of the commander she's been longing to see, and begged him to end her now. Licht reminded her to say the 2 words needed for 2 aces to fight, so Sona said she will bet all of her stars, and Licht agreed to bet all of his. The all thing began coming from the ground to surround them, and Sona began firing towards Licht. He leaped towards her and continued trying to pierce through her bullet storm. But as he struggled, Hina noticed that Sona's count was 32,000, much higher than Licht's. Her bullets finally pierced his armor and sent him crashing against the building. Hina was ready to run to save him, but Peel told her to calm down. Ever since his fight with Jail, he noticed that something was odd. He was fighting a man with double his count, yet Licht still managed to hold him off, so he must be hiding his true powers. Licht sees the tomato sauce covering his hand and draws it on his face. After standing up, he unleashes his true power and a red aura emanates to the heavens. His count skyrockets, and Nana explains that this is the real power hidden within an ace, allowing his count to go all the way up to 57,000. This was the pure bloodlust Sona had been seeking, but as she was ready to fire, she noticed he had disappeared and began quaking in fear. Every single time she turns around, she realizes he isn't anywhere to be seen. Still, she thinks her bullets will continue following him, but sees her bullets being deflected by pure wind. He flashes behind her and begins speeding towards her relentlessly. Nana screams at everyone to get away from him, and as he continues powering up, his aura begins to turn into a purple hue. This was the secret personality hidden within him, and it is only released by the intent to kill by Schmerman. He leaps towards Sona to annihilate her, and none of her bullets are even capable of leaving a scratch. With all his power, he slashes towards Sona, sending her crashing into the building. Her count begins falling all the way to 16,000. And Nana reveals that she was also under the control of a personality. She struggles to wake up and is shocked to see the weapons surrounding her. She was one of the weakest people that never fired at anyone until the end of the war, Nana reveals. Licht tells her to quit being a useless 4 eyes as always, but Lin tries preventing him from attacking. However, Licht asks them if they're his enemies, saying he will eliminate anyone who is his enemy. The only thing that overflows his mind is the desire to annihilate his enemies, but Hina runs to hug him, begging him to return back to his old self. He thinks that she must be another enemy, but before he was able to end her, Sona fired at him and told him she was the real enemy. Licht dropped Hina and began walking towards Sona, and as he picked her up and was ready to end her, Sona wished he would touch her once more like he used to in high school. As he slashed down, Jail appeared to prevent him from ending her. Licht wondered if this man was his enemy, and slashed down towards him, but a golden light blinded all of them. The shockwave of the attack sends Jail falling down, and as Licht attempted slashing down towards him, Jail blocked him with a single iron from his finger. This iron is his conviction, Jail stated, and since Licht lacked conviction, he told Licht that he will never be able to pierce through it, and sent an iron pillar to crush him down. Licht struggles to get up, saying his war won't be over until every single enemy is eliminated, because then he will be able to save the rest. Jail thinks his words are admirable, and pledges to follow his convictions and treat his opponent with the respect he deserves. So he takes out a glove and wears it, revealing his true power. Licht tries rushing forward and attempts to parry against the Iron God, slashing the axe away. He rushes closer, and manages to fend off all of Jail's attacks, but with a powerful swing, he shoots Licht into the air and crushes him down. He kicked Licht's mask off and asked him if he was awake. All of his friends began running towards him, and Licht apologized for scaring them. Sona came to apologize, but Jail spat tomato sauce after eating too much pasta and collapsed. Hina was glad that her man was back. A week later, the All Thing is trying to drag Lin to an H anime, and Licht apologizes that he can't stop the star stake since he doesn't want to end Sona. Nana thinks it'll go away eventually, but Licht would rather let it stay forever. The All Thing begins developing the real plot of this story, and thinks it wants some of Hina as well. But since there's no plot to be developed there, it limps and runs away to develop some real plot with Sona. Jail enters the room to interrupt the plot development, saying he is here to eliminate Licht for attacking the All Thing. However, Nana tells him to stop being ridiculous for trying to follow orders and eliminate the single man who tried to protect others. Jail comes to his senses, and Nana is glad to have found the single man who has stood up to him in the last 300 years. So to thank him, along with everyone in this room for believing in him, she goes on to show them the secret she has hidden up her sleeve, and reveals her ace status with the white star on her face. She warns them that this is not a dream, because if they unalive in this world, they will unalive in the real world, and sends them 300 years into the past, in front of a high school, where they see Licht when he was a teenager. As they walk through the academy, they notice that everyone was staring at them, like they were a group of hillbillies who fell out of the sky. When they realized that they had teleported 300 years into the past, Jail told them that they had to find Licht immediately. Hina suggested that the boy seen outside of the school was Licht, but they were all uncertain, as he looked entirely different from the real Licht. That afternoon in the hall, a tall ugly brute, Takatora, bumped into Hina, scaring her with his hideous disgusting face. Lin decided to confront him, demanding for an apology, but he smacked her away for her troubles. When Jail stepped in, the evil dude threw a punch at him, but he easily dodged it. As the dude began cracking his knuckles, Jail tried using his magic, but discovered that he has no magic in this world. The man punched his face, but as he tried punching again, a young girl asked him to stop. She was the creepy girl named Sona, who had attacked Licht in their city, but right now had a holier-than-thou appearance. When the dude threatened to grind her like a bag of biscuits, another guy named Takakazi decided to stop him, but Jail told him to step aside. Licht suddenly appeared between Hina's legs. Soon, the commander appeared before them, announcing that they were in a military school and would be sent off to war in a few months. He threatened to destroy anyone who would not obey his commands, but a hot lieutenant interrupted and introduced herself as Fyrnda, announcing that they were losing the war and were on the brink of losing their city. However, Commander Paleface snatched the mic from her and introduced the Major. As the Major arrived, everyone saluted him, but after taking a seat, he began reading a bedtime story. When some of the students began laughing at him, the commander told them to be silent, but they continued laughing. Suddenly, he shot at one of them, leaving everyone in shock. And as he shot at two more students, their tomato sauce spilled on Hina, causing her to fall to her knees. Everyone tried running outside, but discovered that the door was locked. The commander threatened to end everyone who tried to leave, and as he saw Hina quivering, he called her a weak, useless worm. When Jail tried to save her, a boy suddenly knocked the gun from the commander and tried lunging with his sword, but he stopped it with his foot and kicked his face. The commander said that they would be eliminated for attacking him, but Licht commanded him to lay down his weapon, as he threatened to end the Major with a stick. When the commander advised that he could end him swiftly, Licht began to leave him, realizing that his plan had quickly gone south. He wrapped a cloth over his stick and pulled out a flower, hoping to convince everyone that he was messing around. But no one bought it, so the commander decided to teach him how to wring his neck, but Licht was too afraid to try. When the commander threatened to end Hina, he immediately released the Major. However, the Major began walking towards him, threatening to end him, as a strange mist spread over the both of them. But in that moment, Fyrnda stopped them and told the students that his action was a mere introduction into the academy. When the students began to wake up, the commander told them that the guns were filled with paint. As he introduced himself, he threatened to destroy them if they refused his commands. A few minutes later at the cafeteria, Hina thanked Licht for supporting her in the hall, and even though he had no memories of her, she was pleased to sit by his side. The next day, Jail began wondering why Nana sent them to the academy, since Licht was only a young boy here. Later in the library, Phil revealed to them that the Allthing fell into this world several years ago, but has been a mystery to everyone. The commander appeared behind them, and told them that the Allthing fell from the sky during their earlier wars, and was built by a great technology that forced lower people to submit to higher people. The next day in class, the commander announced that the Major would be their new instructor. As the Major arrived, he said that everyone would be given 2 stars, and would have to acquire 8 additional stars for a promotion into the army. However, if they lost all their stars, they would be kicked out of the school. Additionally, there were only 2 ways of gaining a star. They could either win a contest or challenge a rival to a fight, where the winner would take all of his stars. With everyone having received their own stars, Licht realized that the Major left none for him, due to their conflict from the previous day. He told him that if he was looking to remain at the school, he had to steal someone else's stars within a few days. In the girls' room, they decided to help Licht in finding a star, since he had no intention of remaining at the school, or joining the army, as he was merely sticking around for his friend, Takakazi, who he was hoping to convince from joining the war. The following day in class, the girls threatened to destroy Licht for staring at them while in the bath, but Hina was more concerned about keeping him at the academy. All of a sudden, a student told them that their lockers had all been raided and that their stars were stolen. Arriving at the devastation, they wondered who could have destroyed their lockers, and soon began accusing Licht of stealing their stars, since he was the only person without a star. However, Hina stepped in to protect him, After hearing a scream in the corridor, they found Takatora taking Sona's stars from her, the same way he stole all of their stars. When Takakaze asked him to return them, he demanded for his own stars and threatened to beat him to a pulp. Afraid of getting humiliated, Takakaze ripped it from his chest and gave it to him. As he began walking away, Jail appeared before his eyes and threatened to end him in an instant. However, Takakaze pleaded on his behalf and told him to allow him to leave. When Lin tried challenging the brute to a duel, Phil tripped her and told her that he would never accept her challenge. After Jail gave his star to Sona, the other students decided to follow in his footsteps and began sharing their stars with one another. Hina tried giving Licht a star, but he would not accept it since he wasn't concerned about staying in the academy. After Takakaze gave away his star to another student, Phil suggested that they steal back their stars from the bully, but Takakaze was afraid of losing his teeth. That evening in class, Takakaze told Licht that he decided to join the army because his family were starving, and that he could only feed them through the ration he kept for himself. Once he was kicked out, they would all starve like the rest of the city. The following evening, Licht rushed at Takatora on his way outside, asking him to return the stars that he stole, but was smacked into the wall. As Takatora walked outside the academy, Jail appeared before his eyes, threatening to destroy him in that instant. However, the brute was determined to leave with them, but as he threw a punch towards him, the major appeared before them. He told Mr. Brute that his stars were missing, and just then, the fake stars exploded to dust, revealing toy frogs in their place. Apparently, Licht had stolen them when he tried pleading for the stars. As his anger began to grow, the major told him that he could not join the army, and gave Jail 2 new stars for his bravery. At the same time, Licht decided to stay at the school, so Takakaze's family would always have something to eat. He suggested that they never fight for a promotion to the army so that they would not die in the war. The following day at school, Licht learned that the commander was looking to punish him for peeking into the ladies' bath, so he told Takakaze that it was not him, but offered to take the punishment for everyone else. With Takakaze unwilling to report him, he promised to repent from all his sins. That night, he hurried to the ladies' bath, hoping to see some beautiful cherries that would leave him climaxing into the new year. However, as he went in, he found a group of angry-looking hottas who began pounding him to the ground. They had exchanged the men's and women's signs, and the bozo had fallen for it. When the girls hurried to their own bath, Licht began slipping away, but was caught by the commander. As a punishment, he decided to send everyone off into the forest, saying that they were every bit as guilty as he was. Inside the forest, the girls began kicking Licht, blaming him for their troubles and lack of beauty sleep. When Jail suggested that they make fire, the girls offered to fetch water and began running towards the river, but Licht tripped them, causing them to fall in it. Having had enough, the girls decided to reveal their plots to him, hoping to see him climax until he lost his mind.
Yeah, boy.
Since they would soon be joining the army, they thought that they were better off getting used to weird creeps like him. However, when one of the girls, Ikenos, tried revealing her plot, Licht covered her up and walked away. He asked why they were determined to join the military, since they would have to eliminate other people, so Ikenos told him that joining the army was the only way to keep her family safe. As she began to cry, the major appeared behind them and suggested forming a new army that would never end anyone. He thought that they could join the military as overpowered humans and could even stop the war. Happy to hear his words, they began cheering. However, Jail thought that he was hiding some secrets. So that evening, as the major entered a secret room, Jail followed him into an underground facility and watched them in a secret lab. Inside the lab, the major wondered how the war could be stopped and asked one of his men to destroy the enemy's headquarters, promising to revive him with a mysterious technology. Lieutenant Firenda told him about her weird experiment on a rat that caused it to kill 100 other rats in an instant, and suggested experimenting on the students, but the major would not accept. Looking to perform an experiment of his own, he demanded for the ballot and put it inside the rat box. After a moment, the rat glowed with a powerful light and flew into the ceiling as it began crashing around the lab. But he froze it in an instant, causing Jail to panic in fear and sink to the floor. Luckily, a girl appeared before his eyes and brought him into her room. She told him that he could leave within a few minutes and teleported across the room to show him her clock. When Jail asked her who she was, she told him that she was Nana from 300 years ago and had only just completed her experiment to becoming the first ace. She had received a letter from Nana in the future telling her about his arrival and that she was going to help him when he got into some trouble. She told him that when the All-Thing crashed on Earth, a few powerful people began appearing, drawn by its mysterious power. As a result, the Major began tapping into its power, hoping to create overpowered humans like himself. They began experimenting on kids, but Nana was the only child who survived, as the others passed on shortly afterwards. When she told him that the Major was looking to perform his next experiment on Licht, Jael asked if older Nana had sent him into the past to stop the surgery, since Licht became a renowned Terminator in the future, but younger Nana could not answer. She was afraid that stopping the experiment may destroy the entire future, so she gave him a drive, and told him that it was from older Nana, which would explain to him what he was meant to do in the past. As he was set to leave, he offered to rescue her from the facility, but she refused to go, afraid of messing with the future. But since he came to change the future, Jael thought that saving her was his duty, but she was determined to stay. After leaving, he arrived at the elevator, but the commander appeared behind him, asking him how he snuck into the facility. Jael smacked the gun away and tried hitting his midsection, but the commander blocked him. He told him that he was too slow and kicked him back. As he hit the gun on his head, he advised him to make some new friends and learn how to trick them, so that he can be a better fighter. When Jael tried attacking again, the commander guessed what he was trying to do, and in that instant, Jael realized that the commander was his father in his real world. As he faced him, he decided to introduce himself and told him that he was from the future, but was hoping to change it. Hearing these words, the commander told him to visit him the following day, so the next day, the commander drove them to a deserted neighborhood. And immediately, the people hurried outside with their weapons. They had been starving for weeks and were desperate for some food. When the commander fired his gun, they all stopped, but a little boy began asking Lin for food. When she asked about his mother, he told her that she had grown too weak to walk and would soon pass out from starvation. Lin decided to give him her snack, but the commander snatched it, knowing that the hungry neighbors would end the poor boy before he arrived home. He told the boy that he must eat the food before him, but the kid could not let his mother starve by herself, and began running off. When the human zombies tried rushing for the food, the commander threatened to end them all, so they ran away. He told Jael that trying to change the future was a waste of time, since the present was already f***ed up. After returning to the school, Hina suggested that they rescue Licht from the academy before he was experimented on. But Phil thought that it would be a useless effort. When Hina suggested that they come up with a different plan, Jael told them that their best bet was changing their own world. The following day, the students had their regular morning jug. When it was over, they lay exhausted on the floor. However, Jael decided to ask for a sparring session with the commander and swiftly attacked him, but he dodged it. As he stole the commander's cigarette, his anger grew, so he began throwing a flurry of punches at him as they continued moving like cockroaches in a box. Soon, the major arrived and told them about a new training to help with their abilities and gave them all a weapon. By the following morning, they began playing on the beach, and Licht could not help admiring all the beautiful cherries before his eyes. The major announced a contest, saying that they had to steal one another's flag to win, and gave them water guns for support. However, before the contest could begin, Licht suggested throwing their weapons away, as he believed that they could smooth talk their enemies on the battlefield. So when the contest began, they started running off with their flag, making the opposing group to run after them. When they were exhausted, Licht returned to claim their flag. In the next round, they faced off with a new group led by Takatora and began running off again. But when they returned to claim their flag, they discovered that Takatora had it with him and had no intentions of allowing them to win. As they started running again, the dude began attacking them. So Lich appeared on a mountain and lured him into the mountains. However, when he arrived at a dead end, Takatora threatened to squash him like a bug. But as he charged towards him, he fell into a ditch, allowing Takakazi to claim his flag. That night, the group decided to celebrate their victory and named Licht their new leader. In the secret lab, the commander was informed that one of their men was eliminated while on a secret mission. So Fyrnda suggested that they begin new experiments on the students before they lost the war. But the major was angry at her words and unleashed ice stakes around her. However, she was convinced that creating overpowered rats was a mere waste of time, and told him that the students were their best bet. So the next day, the major summoned Licht to his office, intending to make him their human lab rat. However, when the students were informed, they asked for the surgery to be cancelled. But Fyrnda told them that it was the only way to win the war. Lin asked Licht why he agreed to be their lab rat, so he told her that he was hoping to save lives in the war. That night, Hina suggested that they stop the surgery from happening, but Jael believed that the entire future would be rewritten by that single act, and would erase their city from existence. The following morning, they decided to bid him goodbye, worried that they may never see him again. As he was walking off, Lin hurried to him, but decided to let him leave. In the class, Hina suggested that they stay with Licht after his surgery and help him in the war so he wouldn't become the Terminator in their world. Jael agreed with her plan and thought that they had a chance of stopping him from wearing masks in the future. Suddenly, they saw helicopters flying towards the school, and immediately they launched a missile at them, blowing up the school. Before long, soldiers raided the school, looking to annihilate everyone in sight. Kagetora pounded one soldier into the ground and told Sona to rescue herself and annihilate them all. But she was too afraid to move, so the dude grabbed her and began firing at them. At the same time, a smoke bomb exploded before another set of soldiers, and Jael ran through the smoke, punching 2 of them, while Takakaze slashed the last one. 2 enemies appeared in the smoke, but the commander ended them with a shot, allowing the students to escape. In the school, Fyrnda informed the commander that Licht was about passing away from the surgery, as they had lost power, so the students offered to find the backup generator. As they ran through the corridor, they came across an enemy, so the commander ended him with several shots. When another appeared, Takakaze hurried to slay him, and the commander shot the last one. Outside, the commander fired at more enemies and ran across to the next building. As Ikanos fought with a soldier, another shot her on the leg, but a student flew in with a punch to the enemy, before getting blasted with several shots. Hina decided to treat his wound and told the boys to find the generator. In another section of the school, the commander threw a board outside the window, but as it fell, bullets riddled it immediately. Realizing that they could lose their lives while trying to find the generator, the commander decided to distract the enemies. But as the students ran off, a missile was launched at him, and it blew up the room. Meanwhile, inside the lab, Licht finally woke up and noticed that his hair looked different. The major handed him a sword, telling him that it has the power of a ballot, but would only unleash its power after he decides what would be his count. When Licht told him that he had never used a sword, the major told him that the sword would make him the greatest fighter in the world. Outside the school, as the soldiers prepared to end Hina and her friends, a mighty light crashed behind them, and when the dust cleared away, they found Licht crashed into a wall. As they shot at him, Licht noticed that the bullets were moving slowly, so he began hitting them away. However, when the soldiers stopped firing, he realized that he was moving too fast for the bullets. He began walking towards them, but as he noticed that his friends had been slain and wounded, he flew in a flash and crashed into their helicopters. As he blocked their bullets, he slashed at the lead soldier, causing the ground to erupt. After a little struggle, he pushed him off and struck him with his sword. With the enemies defeated, the students all gathered around him, happy to see him again. But before long, the soldiers approached them, and as they threw their vests to the ground, they threatened to isekai everyone, alongside themselves. However, Licht snatched the detonator and crushed it to pieces. Desperate to make another impression, the lead soldier told him that the school was rigged with explosives, and threatened to eliminate everyone by merely commanding for an explosion. Licht was afraid that he would lose his friends to another attack, so he drew his sword, looking to frighten him into surrendering, but the man was unfazed. In his city, their annihilation merely guaranteed that a few more people would have an extra ration of food to live on, and as a result, they considered their annihilation the bravest thing in the world. As he began counting down, Takakaze started rushing towards him with his sword, but Licht slayed the men in a flash, leaving everyone in shock, with Hina and her friends having teleported from the future to stop this very moment from happening. They were shocked to watch the past repeat itself before their own eyes. After a moment, Licht hurried away, but Hina ran after him and soon found him throwing up, wrecked by the guilt of his action. As she tried consoling him, a mysterious light surrounded her and her friends, and she soon realized that Nana was about to teleport them back to the future. Before her eyes, Licht picked his sword and vowed to become the human Terminator, and as he said those words, a star appeared on his sword, marking it for his count. Desperate to make an impression, Hina flew at him with a kiss and put his hand on her cherry, telling him to never forget her, as she would be rejoining him in the future to carry his babies. With these words, she vanished before him into a colorful light. As the remaining students watched the others vanish, Licht appeared behind them, saying that they came from the future. That day, a war broke out in their world, and every city fought to eliminate each other so that they would be all that was left on Earth, as the entire world was ravaged by hunger. Licht was determined to keep his friends away from the war, so he took on the enemies all by himself. When he returned to the school, his friends were all waiting for him, but he merely ignored them. He had slain more than 1,000 soldiers, and was greatly burdened by the weight of all the memories. That day, Nana met him while he was taking a shower, and before long, they became friends, and read books together. She decided to take him for her brother, and since she was mostly all by herself, she always hoped to see him every day. However, as the weeks passed, Licht began to change as he was terribly scarred from all the battles, and soon became unrecognizable. In the battles, he continued destroying enemy soldiers, and after annihilating several of them, he became a shadow of his former self. One evening, the girls tried flashing him their plot, hoping to see him climax like he used to, but he merely walked away from them. He was determined to end the war all by himself, so he took a mask from the wall, and as he ran into battle again, he slashed the enemies. After a few weeks, his friends asked the Major to carry out the same experiment on them, as they were eager to support him in the war, so the Major agreed to it. By the time it was over, only 4 people were a match. Takakaze, who was known as the ace of sudden strikes, Takatora, who was known as the ace of heavy strikes, Sona, who was the ace of pursuit, and then the commander, who was the ace of explosive strikes. When Licht was leaving for another battle, Takakaze and Sona offered to join him for support, but he drew his sword and threatened to end them in an instant. So they watched him leave, allowing him to continue his reign of terror on the battlefield. In the Major's office, Fyrnda suggested that they invade the enemy countries and steal their ballots, since food continued to vanish in their cities. She believed that they could become the most powerful nation in the world if they had all the ballots, and could create their own Disneyland in the clouds. At these words, the Major decided to accept her plan, and agreed to send Licht's friends to war. However, when Licht heard their plans, he went into a frenzy, and began slashing his sword at his friends to scare them off from joining the war. When 2 of the boys tried restraining him, he shoved them away, and slashed Sona's arm off. So to honor his wish, they decided to stay away from the war, hoping that he would return to his former self. A few years later, the war ended, and with the Major having acquired all 7 ballots from every other city in the world, he decided to create a new world using its powers. As the grounds broke, they began rising towards the sky to form new islands. However, they continued draining the food and fuel from the lower Earth. Without food and fuel, the humans in the lower Earth were basically a walking dead, and could never attack the world above. After a few years, their population began to grow again. But no one knew about the world below, nor why the city floats in the clouds. With the power of the Allthing, the new world was ruled with total control, and numbers were given to everyone so that they would never stop working, while everyone who lost their numbers were dragged into the world below, doomed to starvation. As a measure to keep their secrets safe, floating objects were considered to be illegal, so that no one would ever see beyond the islands to the lower Earth, which was referred to as the Abyss. With the power of the 7 ballots, the islands were able to stay afloat. However, were they to vanish, their world would crumble in an instant. A few centuries ago, Takakaze broke into the mystery room and stole one of the ballots, as he believed that it was a cruel thing to utilize all the powers of the ballots while abandoning the lower Earth to starve. However, as he tried returning, Licht flew towards him and slayed him in an instant, allowing Fyrnda to retrieve the ballot. As he watched his friends gather around Takakaze, he realized that he had become a true monster, and soon passed out from the shock. 2 decades after the war, he woke up to discover that his friends had all stayed in the lower world, as they were determined to save the surviving kids. But with very little food left to eat, they decided to isekai themselves, so the kids would survive for a while longer. A few weeks later, Licht and Nana decided to leave the army, and for 100 years, as they traveled together, Licht never spoke a word, and never took off his mask. He blamed himself for the death of his friends, and although the new world was made as a result of the wars he fought, he was convinced that he was the worst human alive. In the 300th year after the war, Nana and Licht continued traveling across their world, hoping to find a settlement for the both of them. But Licht still never took off his mask. However, towards the end of the century, he finally decided that the islands were better off destroyed, as an atonement for his sins. Nana was hoping that Hina and her friends would be able to change the future and make Licht into a new person. But even they discovered that the past could not be altered. So as they returned to their world, Nana asked if they finally understood why Licht became a human Terminator, but Hina wanted to speak with him first. As she met him on a cliff, she decided to reveal her cherries again, hoping that he would remember her from the past. But he covered her with his cloak and told her that he was too old for her. At Nana's camp, the group began drinking PG grape juice as a celebration for their return from the past. But all of a sudden, Jail punched Licht to the ground and showed him Nana's video during their 300 years of traveling together. She had stayed by his side for all those years, dreaming about a Cinderella wedding with him. However, He had been so deep into guilt that he never seemed to notice her presence. But at that moment, Licht realized that he had been a real ass and immediately held her in his arms. He told her that he was the saddest person in the world due to the haunting memories of all his friends, but was happy that she stayed by his side and would not allow him to off himself. That night, as she slept by his side, he was happy to have her with him. By the following morning, Nana decided to drink more PG grape juice, but Licht told her that he was going into the city. However, Hina met him in the forest and asked him why he was always running away from her. She wished to stay by his side forever, but was disappointed that he didn't want her beside him. Licht told her that he met her mother 300 years ago when he was in the academy, and that the ballot given to her by her mother was a powerful weapon that could destroy their world. However, her mother was not an ace, so he wondered how she was alive for all those years. He wondered if she knew who her father was, but she didn't, so he told her that her father was Takakaze. Hina's mother had been his lover at the time, but he had slain him when he stole the ballot from the major. He was convinced that he couldn't be the same person her mother would ask her to find, having known that he slayed her father. Every time he looked at her, he was haunted by the memory of it, and his guilt made him want to stay away from her forever. When she began feeling dizzy from a sleeping pill he had put in her, he told her that he was going to destroy the entire army, and was unwilling to put anyone else into danger. So he carried her to Nana's camp, where everyone else had also passed out on the table. However, as he began to leave, Jail asked him why he was trying to steal the remaining ballots, since he knew that the islands only existed because of these ballots, and that without them their world would be destroyed. So Licht told him that it was his own way of atoning for his sins, since he caused the islands to exist in the first place. However, Jail would not agree with him, so they faced off, threatening to annihilate each other. But then they began walking away. Since Licht was determined to destroy the islands, Jail believed that it was his duty to eliminate him the next time they crossed path in battle. The next morning, Hina and her friends discovered that Licht had gone into the city to attack the entire army, so they hurried to find him. Around the city, a mighty force knocked Licht to the ground, and Takatora appeared before his eyes, having possessed the ability to control gravity. He told him that he had imagined squashing him for 300 years, and unleashed his power towards him, causing large boulders to fall on top of him. A few hours later, Hina and her friends arrived at the rubble, and found him passed out, but before long, they were surrounded by the army. Inside the city, Jail decided to meet his adopted father, who was the commander in the academy. When his assistant told him that he was having breakfast, Jail kicked down the door onto his head, and challenged him to a fight. As the All-Thing began coming out of the ground, Jail rushed towards him with a punch, but he caught his hand, and as he dodged his strike, he hurled him away. Jail rushed at him again, but was stopped with a blow, and punched on the head as the commander began stamping on him. However, he managed to lunge a blow at his head. When he challenged him at the academy, he had hoped to discover a skill for when he returned to the future, and was glad to see it come in handy. As Jail began summoning a metal beast, it broke through the roof and destroyed the office. But as he lunged a blow towards him, the beast went ablaze and melted away. The commander revealed his powerful ring, and burnt Jail's uniform off, leaving him unconscious. With nothing more to lose, he decided to tell him his story. 300 years ago, before he joined the academy, he had a family that he loved very much. But one day, he discovered that they had been slain by a man who came to steal their food, so he trailed him to his home, and tried blasting his head off. However, when he realized that the man had a weak little child, he decided to spare his life. He told Jail that he considered him his son, and advised him not to seek for vengeance. So the All-Thing took his count, leaving him with only one, and with no other option but to start the process all over again. When Jail challenged him for a second time, he threatened to annihilate him like a worthless piece of paper. However, Jail was not afraid of losing his last count. He wondered why he didn't ask Nana to return him to the past, so that he could save his family from getting annihilated. But the commander knew that a single change to the past would ruin the entire future, and he was unwilling to lose what he already has, so he told him to never return again. Meanwhile, Hina and her friends woke up in an underground cell, and Takatora questioned why they decided to visit the past, as he unleashed his power on them. But before long, the Major appeared, also wondering why they returned to the past. He told them that Licht was destined to become a vicious Terminator since his first day in the academy, when he threatened him with a stick, and told Takatora to carry out a new ace experiment on them. But after he left, the ugly dude stopped a soldier from giving Hina a mysterious drug that would grant her overpowered abilities. When he tried forcing it into her mouth, Takatora became jealous about sharing similar powers with other people, and unleashed his power on the man, before blasting off the ceiling. He believed that only the few students who fought in the war all those years ago deserved to be ace soldiers, and was determined to eliminate everyone else. As two men rushed in, he cast a mighty force at them and stepped on a man. He unleashed another force towards Hina and destroyed all of their chains, telling them to leave immediately. But when Hina tried picking up her stick, her bag ripped open and the ballot rolled to the ground. At the sight of this, Takatora's anger grew again, and he forced them to the ground with his magic. He believed that they were planning to destroy the island since Hina had it in her possession, and threatened to end them instead. When Lin tried running away, Takatora forced her to the ground again. So in hopes of distracting him, Phil grabbed his leg, while Hina held on to him, telling Lin to find Licht immediately. Takatora smacked Phil into the wall, and held Hina in his grip, threatening to end her at that moment. However, Lin took advantage of his distraction, and hurried away, but the human wreck threw Hina aside. Arriving outside, he began summoning rocks from the ground and launched them towards her. The rocks struck her shoulder and slit her leg, but she would not stop. However, when the ugly bully launched another set of rocks at her, she was impaled by one of them, but managed to ride off. Satisfied with the damage, Takatora returned to the underground and told Hina that Lin was sure to pass out within a few minutes, and that they could start preparing for her funeral. Hina believed that she would survive, so Takatora promised to spare them if she returned within a few hours, and as he unleashed his power on the wall, it crumbled, revealing Nana on the other side, as he was looking to eliminate them altogether. Meanwhile, Lin fell off her horse, having lost too much tomato sauce, and started crawling towards Licht. He was still unconscious, and looked like he was never going to wake up again. By nighttime, she tried to resuscitate him, afraid that he would remain unconscious for another couple of decades, and blew air into his mouth. However, having lost too much sauce, she became exhausted and passed out on his chest as her life began flashing in a mind. She was sad that she couldn't tell him that she wished to remain by his side forever, but hoped that he would eventually wake up to save her friends. However, a few hours later, she woke up to find her friends from the city, who had bandages her wound and were happy to see her wake up. But when she discovered that Licht was still unconscious, she began to cry and walked away. Before her eyes, the sun rose into the sky, and she thought that her friends would be meeting their doom shortly. But as she started to fall, Licht caught her. At the same time, Takatora watched the sunrise and began to unleash his power at Hina and her friends. But as he tried crushing them into the ground, a powerful flame crashed before him. As the dust cleared away, they realized that he was Licht, who had arrived to rescue them. But when Angry Face tried attacking him, Licht told him to take a chill pill and told Phil to perform some Grey's Anatomy on Lin. As they left, Licht apologized to Hina for avoiding her and told her that he has wished to stay by her side since the first time he met her as the creepy stalker. Happy to hear his confession, she decided to kiss him, promising to stay by his side forever, and wondered how soon they could start making babies. However, Licht was more concerned about the battle before him. As he left her, he drew his sword and threw off his cloak. When Takatora unleashed his power and launched rocks at him, he dodged everything and attacked him with his sword. After a little struggle, Takatora crashed to the ground, but Sona appeared and began firing at Licht. As he tried to run, Takatora caught him with his magic, forcing him to block her bullets with his sword, and narrowly dodged a combined attack. But before moving too far, Takatora caught him again with his magic, but as Sona began firing at him, he slashed the bullets and flew off. Takatora launched his magic towards him, and as the bullets went through, they knocked Licht back and exploded, causing him to fall to the ground. When Takatora unleashed a powerful force on him, Sona began firing again, but he blocked her attacks. So Takatora unleashed more power and forced him down, allowing Sona to fire more shots at him. She told him that when she was first made an ace soldier, she had hoped to have a place by his side, but was disappointed when he abandoned her and the rest of the group by choosing to fight all by himself. And with that, she started raining more bullets at him. Takatora believed that Licht was responsible for turning Sona into a deranged menace, but Licht thought that he was trying to save her from becoming another human Terminator. As Takatora unleashed more power, looking to destroy him, Nana stepped in and tried protecting him, but the dude knocked her aside and cast a mighty force on everyone. Determined to save them, Licht decided to unleash his own power as the Ace of Destruction. However, Jail appeared after an explosion and walked through the dust to save him. As Takatora and Sona launched an attack on them, they slashed and punched it. When Sona began firing at Jail, he merely stood his ground, unfazed by her attacks, and as she fired more shots, it ripped his clothes, but he was still unfazed. Desperate to eliminate him, Sona continued blasting at him, and after a pause, she began firing again. But Jail started walking towards her. As she panicked, she shot with a rifle, but continued missing her aim, so she took a revolver and fired again before starting to reload. But Jail held her weapon and reminded her that he had warned her at the academy to remain a good person, but was disappointed to see her become a rip-off Terminator. Touched by his words, she broke down, crying. Takatora realized that the numbers were no longer in his favor, so he tried launching a blast at Jail, but Licht slashed it. When Takatora launched another attack, Licht tried blocking it, but his sword was blasted from him. Licht told him that he was trying to destroy the islands because the lower earth were in poverty, and asked for his help, but Takatora could care less about anyone, and punched his face, but Licht punched him back. As the dude punched him again, Licht returned the gesture, so as they rushed towards each other, they knocked their teeth off and smashed their heads together, before taking a moment to recover. During the war, Takatora ended thousands of young enemies, who were brainwashed into fighting, and now he was afraid that the destruction of their islands would lead to another war with the lower world. However, Licht was convinced that everyone was better off fighting for their survival in the lower earth. After realizing that he could not stop Licht's determination, Takatora launched a blast at him and threatened to annihilate him. As he launched 2 blasts at him, Licht slashed them in an instant, so Takatora summoned powerful lights. But as he unleashed them, Licht flew away. The dude unleashed a mighty tornado towards him, but he stepped on a rubble and began flying out. But before long, he was sucked into the abyss, and the tornado rolled up into a ball as Takatora squashed it to dust. Licht woke up in a mysterious realm and found skulls all around him. When he tried to move, a strange mask appeared before his eyes, and he began hearing Takatora's voice, who told him that he was at the end of a gravity pit and could never escape. At these words, more masks started appearing around him, all belonging to the ace soldiers. They told him to end himself and ignore his plans for war, but he slashed one of the masks and watched it glue back. When he began slashing them all, he soon became tired, as they all glued back immediately. After realizing that he was truly trapped, he decided to give up. But at that moment, he heard Hina's voice, so he took his sword again, determined to escape from the realm, and as he channeled a light through the sword, he began slashing all the masks, and planted the sword into the skulls, destroying everything in his path. Meanwhile, in the real world, Takatora was ready to launch a blast at Hina, but his magic began to glow with a strange bright light, and as it exploded, Licht appeared before their eyes. After he told Takatora that he was determined to fight until the end, he launched a blast towards him, but he blocked it and slashed it away. Rushing at him, he punched him right in the skull, causing him to fly into a wall. As he stood, he told Licht that the commander was holding 3 of the ballots, while the major was holding 4 ballots, and as he returned Hina's ballot, he began to leave, determined to stay away from Licht's war. A few days later, Licht visited Lin at the hospital, but by the time she opened her eyes, he was gone. As he was leaving, Phil appeared behind him with a sword, wondering how he knew that he could treat Lin when she was wounded. Licht told him that he knew all of his secrets, but decided to tell none of their friends since the simp was merely interested in winning Lin's heart to himself. That evening, after Licht told Hina that he was ready for plot development, she decided to reveal her cherries to him. But our hero quickly fumbled and began backing away to a tree. However, she was determined to and would not let him out of her sight. In the forest, Licht told them that he would stop fighting to destroy their world. However, he believed that they were better off not depending on the power of the ballots, since the Allthing was becoming too powerful to control. He thought that the islands would be a better place if no one was getting sent into the abyss, and decided that he would eliminate the major and create a new world for everyone. And as he said these words, Sona appeared above them, offering to join in their fight. As they traveled on a carriage to a different part of the islands, Hina promised to stay with Licht forever. She told him that ever since she got the ballot from her mother, she'd been looking for him, and will never leave his side, so Licht promised to always protect her. She hugged onto him, saying that she'll be counting on him. Watch this next video. Till next time, my fellow legendary plot masters.